Toplofty Lounge. We're in for a smooth show for you today. Oh yeah, baby. In 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, baby. Yeah, here we go. In 11, 10, 9. Oh yeah, baby. Here we come. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Toplofty Lounge, episode 47. Can you believe it? 47. Conversations for the elevated. And don't forget about our $1 million guarantee. Welcome to all my fellow snobs. This week on the Toplofty Lounge, it's Easter. We're just going to chill. We're going to have a little discussion, open discussion about fixing failing IPs of the science fiction variety, of course. But before we get to that, I need to introduce my co-host. He is the romantic fantasy to my science fiction. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Easter.
Yes, happy Easter. Happy Easter. Before we get to that, we have just a little announcement. As you can maybe just tell from Cam's voice. Cam, do you have something special?
Yes, I do. It's a very exciting announcement.
Exciting news, yes.
Hopefully, this will solve the problems we've been having. Is I splurged on an actual microphone, a dedicated microphone for the 2 shows I do a week. So hopefully, this will eliminate the in and out sound problems I've been having. Snob and I did some testing yesterday, and it does seem to be directly related to the microphone headset that I was using. So let us know if
a new microphone for Cam.
How dare you?
Oh,
this is some bullshit.
So awesome. So we won't have that microphone problem anymore. We hope. We think we tested it out. It seemed to work out really, really well. So everything's good in that. Don't say we don't ever spend any money on the show. Cam just did. I mean, he's putting it out there. What's everyone saying here? You sound well better. Woohoo! A new toy for Cam. Yes. For sure.
Well, that's. I'm going to say that's a resounding good start then.
Yeah, everyone's seems to be liking the new richer voice, Cam. You sound like you are. Sounds like a sexy beast, I must say.
Well, that's great, because usually I sound like, apparently Steve Buscemi.
Some say.
Yeah.
A young Steve Buscemi. All right. So before we get going, let's just say hello to everyone in the chat. Who do I see in the chat here? I see Weatherman is showing up. That's good. Our most loyal viewer, welcome. Dave, DP, good to see you. Hello, welcome in the chat. Yes, I think Cam is feeling better. I don't know, Cam, are you're COVID? You beaten COVID back? Is that? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Whoa! See, now I coughed. You just mentioned.
Whoa.
I didn't get to hit my cough button soon enough.
You're just practicing. That's practicing the mute button? Is that right?
Yeah, I just did that. So yes, despite my lingering cough and some other strange issues, I'm actually feeling, quite a lot better. Hey, Death Angel Shadow, welcome.
Death Angel Shadow's in the chat too. All right. So Cam, Easter, big celebration for the various Christians around the world.
Yes.
How did you? Anything special Easter dinner?
Well, I went to church this morning. Which is, normal, but semi-normal at least. And then I went to, there's a local place that does catering and things. And since cooking is not in the wheelhouse of my life, I eat out a lot, and they have like a buffet thing. It's like a brunch that they have occasionally and for holidays and things. So went to that today, which was good.
It was good. Yeah. All right. Well, we just finished here in the dugout. We just finished our dinner. The wife makes does
beef jerky.
No. It was ham. Chris, very traditional Easter ham. Though the wife doesn't like ham much.
Oh, well, I'm
So,
sorry that you.
but we do, we do it for that. I like it. So,
Wait. We should be watching the birds right now.
oh, you want to put the birds on?
Yeah, it'd be good if we had bunnies and baby chickens and everything. But
Yeah, it's the bunnies and they hide. Like it's hard to, you can't just get the bunnies don't come out. I mean, they're very
well,
cautious.
yeah, that's true. I did actually have some bunnies in my, or at least one in my backyard a couple days ago. So.
Oh, really? Oh, well,
Mhm.
we've got bunnies in mind, but we don't see them very often. This was so you can see the snow is almost ready to start melting. May 1st, we have the snow start to melt around there. So, yeah. But we've got birds. We have prairie chickens. Now you see, okay, if you're looking at the picture, you can see this the birch tree right sort of in the center, a little bit to the right.
Mhm.
In that copse of trees there on the right, just in the the background, there's a bunch of prairie chickens we call them. Basically, they're like pheasants and stuff, right? So they're hanging out there.
Mhm. Oh,
They're doing their thing. Yeah. All
should I
right.
tell my should I relay my magical story that I told you yesterday when we were testing?
No killer rabbits in the Great White North. No, we don't. We don't. No. Oh, spaghetti for Easter dinner. Okay, that sounds good. I was going to finish my. Let me finish my
Oh, sorry.
dinner. So we had, well, it was ham and mashed potatoes and carrots. So it was kind of wasn't a huge dinner, but it was it's pretty good. The trying to get the kids to help make dinner, trying to teach them to be make dinner so they can do it on their own and stuff. So the potatoes weren't quite fully cooked when they were mashed, so we had to nuke them afterwards, and there's a little bit back and forth, but it turned out okay. So yeah, all right, yeah. Your story from yesterday, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was out for a bit of a walk, and there's kind of I mean, it's like through neighborhoods, but there's like some wild areas around in farm fields and things like that. And I spotted some birds off in the distance, and I said, well, let me take a look, because they seemed like rather large birds in the middle of this field, and so turns out it was a bald eagle, which I've never seen around here before. In the wild, I've seen them at zoos or things like that, but never in the wild. And a turkey, like a wild turkey, sitting there about a few feet away from each other, and I have no idea what they were doing there together, but they were just chilling, and I watching for maybe 15 minutes, and
It might have been
there.
love at first sight,
It could have been. It could have been one of those
something
things.
like that. The
Or
love that dare not speak its name.
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if bald eagles eat turkeys or how that goes, but maybe they were having a knockdown drag out battle, and they just
And they were just taking a break.
yeah, something.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I think there was at the beginning of this Trump tariff thing, somebody was posting up in Canada was posting up. There was a bald eagle that landed beside a Canada goose, and they were just sitting there, like just hanging out, sort of the same way. And someone was posting this, kind of funny,
Yeah.
because you don't
So-
usually see those together. Oh, Aldous on the farm is in. All right, welcome, man. Welcome. Just we're just killing a little time. Do we get a few people in? Give a chance to that YouTube to go off and people to jump in.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just had my phone camera, and it was not sufficient zoom on it to be
You
able to
didn't
take a
have.
picture.
I mean, I'm surprised, Cam. You carry all kinds of stuff with you all the time. I mean, you had your binoculars with you. You had, yeah. I'm surprised you didn't have. You didn't have a good camera with you. I mean, what's going on? I mean, geez, that's crazy.
I travel late.
Oh, okay. You're traveling late.
Well, I did have a monocle with me. I did have a magnification device, so I mean, it's not like I had nothing. But
Yeah, it's true.
I'm not much of
that's
a
true.
photographer, so.
Oh.
Anyway.
Eagles will eat cats and small dogs, so they would eat a turkey. Yeah. Yeah, but maybe not a Canada goose. Those things they're pretty big. They're like swan size, bigger, and they're pretty nasty. We have
Yeah.
we have. I mean, this is the time where they where I live, the Canada geese come back, and they're just everywhere. They just like literally around. I'd be driving, and on the side of the road, there'll be a bunch of Canada goose sitting there, on their eggs and stuff. Like, once they get their eggs going, like they are everywhere, and they just walk on. My wife got stuck behind one trying to. It wasn't even crossing the road. It was walking down the middle of the road, and all these people are stopped waiting for this stupid goose to get off the thing. Last year, I had a bunch of them running across with their babies. They're just everywhere, and they're really nasty. So in this park we have, which is the park in the center, the nice park in the center of the town, the festival area, right, where they do all that stuff. It's got a bit of water and stuff, so the geese are always there crapping all over the place. But people are like, oh, look at the geese, let's go pet them. They are nasty MFers.
Yeah,
they will bite pieces out of you. They just hiss at you, and they'll give you the gear, especially when they're sitting on eggs or they got babies or anything. They're even worse. And people are all like, oh, let's feed them. No, the geese will take a piece out of your leg or something. Don't pet them. They're not nice.
Yeah,
they're pretty greasy to eat too. So yeah.
Well, I don't think I've ever eaten a goose, but
they're pretty greasy apparently. I haven't eaten one either, but there was so many of them, and you're not supposed to. You can't hunt them and stuff. So people were suggesting we get too many of them, so they said, hey, let's kill a bunch of them and feed them to the homeless.
Yeah, they transit through here, at different. So there are some around, but other times of the year there's. I mean, like this pond that I walk around a lot. That literally there must have been 300 of them in this thing. It's not that big a pond either, so they're a nuisance. Yeah,
they can be a bit of a nuisance. Yeah. MS is in. Have we seen MS before? Goose Lives Matter? Not really. No, they don't. At least not Canada geese. We have too many of them around here.
Well, MS is in from Jason's show all the time.
Oh, is it?
As I recall,
I think I've seen MS before. I don't remember on this show, but somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know if MS has ever been here, but welcome anyway.
Welcome, and I'm getting old and I can't remember this stuff. So, So we were talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, unless it's a different MS.
Could be. I mean,
let us know.
Here, just excuse me for a sec. Oh, I ate a little bit too much here. Let's just a little too much at dinner here. Let me just unzip a little bit there. That's so much better.
Oof.
Okay.
That was repulsive. Yeah.
Now we can maybe we can carry on with the show now.
All right. Should we get into this?
Yeah. Shall we jump right into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're just gonna have a chill talk about sci-fi IPs and how we can fix them. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is we're gonna talk about the big four real quick. A lot of people talk about them. I mean, we can spend as much time as we want, but I want to get to other ones that are a little bit less well known. The big four being Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, and I would throw Marvel into there because those are kind of the biggest ones. But before we get into that, I just want to say that when we're talking about this, think about this, everyone. This is my theory. See if it's correct or if you think it's got some merit. Going through this list of all these various sci-fi IPs, mainly television movie stuff. I looked at it and I said, you know what? The stuff that is, not good is all the stuff that they've been doing, right? And the stuff that they haven't touched, of course, is still good. But I'm like, oh, they haven't done anything there. That is still good. Oh, look, they crapped on this. Every time they keep trying to do things, they make it worse. But anyway, think about that as we go on. Okay, of the big four there, Cam, what do you want to start with? Go ahead.
Well, let's start with. Well, okay, I can do a twofer here. Okay, Star Wars and Star Trek. Don't hire J.J. Abrams to do anything with your IPs ever, and now that's been done, somehow figure out a way to erase his influence on those IPs, and then move forward from there. And I'm not joking.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I would agree with that. I'm a big writing guy. I like good writing. If the writing is good, then I'm going to probably like the show.
Sure.
all the other stuff make it good too. It's good to have good visuals and all that stuff, but the writing has to be good. Otherwise, it's it's difficult. And the biggest thing Star Trek and Star Wars face is the crappy writing, and some of it is this whole. I mean, you can talk about the woke DEI stuff, the girl bossing and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's part of it is this trying to put agendas in there instead of writing, hey, let's write a good story with good characters. It's like, we have to have this type of character who's got these characteristics. And then you throw that in there and then you write, and then don't bother to write a good story. That's kind of my main problem with those two things.
Well, yeah. And okay, so Star Trek had a 35-year run where, even though people might not have liked some, as well as others, I don't think anyone was like, oh, that writing really just sucks. The quality isn't good. They might not have liked the content.
Yeah.
But they didn't, it wasn't a matter of having garbage writers that are, interjecting a bunch of trash. Now, and again, bearing in mind that Star Trek was always filled with social commentary of one form or another.
Yeah.
Which is, again, very different from politics, as people claim it today. But then after, I mean, even through Enterprise, it was good. Well, and then what happened after that? Oh, J.J. Abrams did.
Yeah.
Because,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just, I'm not joking when I say that was the launching point for it. Now, is he responsible for all the crap that has come since then? No. But
he's a product of the times, I think.
I don't know. He's a possible patient zero for a lot of these things as well.
Could be.
I mean, the guy, again, people like some things that he's done, but he is an absolute curse to someone else's IP. I can't say single-handedly, but he had a major part in destroying Star Trek and Star Wars.
That's true.
Hard to deny.
It's a theory that you're working on there too. See, I would say, I mean, I've said this before. I said this on Jason's show. For me, into Star Wars, there should be 3 types of Star Wars shows. There should be the one for adults, which is the one for past fans of the show, who grew up with it, who saw the original in the theater, that kind of stuff in the 70s and 80s. And they're the adult Star Wars fans. You should do some shows for them. And to me, that's Andor. Andor fits into that style of show, right?
Mm-hmm.
More mature, etc. Then they should have the family shows, the 4 quadrant, as people call it, something that appeals to the whole family. So the Star Wars fans who are in their 40s and 50s now, let's say, can take their kids to see it, and their kids will enjoy it too. And then they have some specific kids type shows, and for that would fall in some of the anime cartoons are kind of kiddie oriented. The show that Jason talks about that just came out, what was that one? With the kids and what was that? Can't remember the name.
Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew. Just skip my. So I mean, that's more for kids. I mean, can adults enjoy it? Sure, they can, for sure. Kids can enjoy, but it's for kids mainly. Star Wars Rebellion, which I didn't think was it Rebellion? It was like animated. It wasn't very good, but that was for kids, obviously. And I don't think it was very good because it didn't appeal to me. It was very much more cute.
Well, it was also a very bad era to set a show in.
Yeah, and So I mean, that's the kind of the thing that Star Wars should go if you want to fix Star Wars, and just do good writing. Like, just no more. We need these types of peoples in the show. Write a good show, and I mean, the audience won't care how what the genders and the races and the whatevers of the characters are if they're good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's no one, literally no one. I shouldn't say no one, because there's always some weirdo on the internet. The people that Disney goes and finds, and then says this is representative of the people they wish to attack. But in general, no one gives a crap about whatever someone's identity is on a show if, like you say, it's good. It's
Yeah.
well written and well presented. Nobody cares.
This is a little off topic, but someone was mentioning racism, and they're talking about racism. Racism. We had less racism in the '80s, where you'd have all the most popular shows on television were all featuring black people or black families, like the Cosby Show, the Jeffersons.
Yeah, Clownfish was
Um,
talking about it, I think.
yeah, was it? Oh, okay. Yeah, and then it's like all these shows were all were centered around black families and they're like, yeah, those. Like I remember watching those shows. They were good. I enjoyed them. I didn't care what color
Everybody watched the Cosby Show.
yeah,
Everybody.
yeah, yeah. It was pretty popular. Nobody
Yes, it was.
cared that they were what color they were. It was just a good show
Not
that
only
people
did they
liked.
didn't care, they loved it. That
Yeah,
show was a massive hit, and then some. Without getting into political things, some horrible people basically resurrected the narrative, at least, about it. Doesn't mean that racism doesn't exist anywhere in the world, but in terms of pop culture and general interactions in the world for normal people, no one walked around like it was 1930 in the deep south. It
yeah,
just that died with Generation X, and the millennial generation had it resurrected in them by a bunch of psychopathic boomers.
yeah. Who wanted to resurrect it for their own grift or for their
Right.
own
And it's
reasons.
still going on. Yeah, I mean, it's they've literally rewritten history.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Fresh
and
Prince of Bel Air. That was no one.
yeah, but I mean, well,
Another one.
this came up this week. Jason was talking about it, because John Boyega, who is an absolute moron, piece of garbage, apparently, because he's parroting absolute lies, exactly the opposite of reality. The fans liked Finn. Again, he was one of the things people across the board were like, boy, why didn't you do more with him? They thought that he got shortchanged. Da, 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 da. The only people who were racist towards him were Disney shills lying about it and China.
Yeah, yeah. We would at China. Um, we I remember, I was a bit of a Star Wars fan. I was a little disappointed at the prequels, but when they came, when the Force Awakens was supposed to come out, I remember seeing the trailers and being interested in. Oh, we've got a stormtrooper. He's got his helmet off. What's the story with this guy?
Right.
Um, you know, uh, is he and people speculating, is he going to be a force sensitive stormtrooper? Is he going to rebel from the stormtroopers? What's going on? That kind of stuff. So it
Right.
was kind of interesting.
And it's amazing they're able to bring the pieces to the table and then do nothing with it. It's yeah. James says no payoff. Now, if I may,
Okay, so I'm just okay. Maybe did I miss the first part of James' comment? No. Okay. No military war arcs, no morally questionable captains. These
I
things
think
you don't.
I think he's talking about Star Trek here.
These are things you don't want in your Star Trek or emotionally accessible characters, emphasis on beauty, simplistic, minimal, stick designs. That's what you're looking for in your. I mean, I would agree. This whole morally questionable captain stuff. I don't mind the military war arcs. Like I think um,
Uh,
DS9 did that well, but
Well, it sounds
you
to me
don't
as
need
if
everyone,
James was
right?
not a fan of DS9. Is my guess. We're
Oh,
reading
is it?
between the lines
Okay.
here.
You
Um,
don't need that in every one story. I mean, DS9 is it's different than all the other ones. It doesn't really fit the usual mold for Star Trek. That's fine. It can you can go against the mold, but you don't need to do it every time. Yeah, this morally questionable. That's not really Star
well,
Trek.
I
That's
don't
another.
I don't like it as a rule. Certainly. I mean, from a broader sense, this whole I think we've talked about this either on Jason's show or our show, about this whole all these gray characters, they're so morally complex or whatever. No, they're not. They're just garbage, poorly written characters, and these people don't know how to have a hero or a villain anymore. It's just this wishy-washy garbage. So that is a problem. Why it's interesting having a morally questionable person is interesting when it's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah,
And
I don't mind morally questionable characters, but if everyone is a morally questionable character, then that's not, that's.
right.
I mean, I agree. That's garbage. That's just everything's the same.
Exactly. And this, so we're getting a little off topic, but why not?
No, we're into this. That's what we're talking about. Star Wars, Star Trek.
Well, I was going to say about the morally. I first noticed this in comic books, right? When Dark Knight Returns came out and Watchmen, right, back to back, essentially in the late '80s, it turned the comic book world on its head because I mean they were huge hits, this big splash, and it was like, oh my gosh, because they were out of the ordinary, for mainstream comics, right? And then suddenly everything chased that for the next 20 plus years, 30 years, I guess at this point, people have chased that, trying to replicate that, not understanding that those things were interesting and unique, because they came from a different environment. Just doing that all the time isn't interesting.
Everybody can't be the Punisher.
That's right. And
that makes it boring.
Well, as Dave says here, Jason says the writers have no classical literature backgrounds. They have that's absolutely true. They have no literature background of any kind.
I have two daughters, and they're both creatively minded in some ways, unlike their father. Mm-hmm. And one of them is kind of likes writing, and the other one both of them like writing to some extent, and other art. And I've tried to push these classical, stuff on them. I say, you got to read, you got to read the Bible. You got to know the stories of the Bible in general. Every story that we have is based on something from the Bible. It's the first book, for example. And I'm just speaking from a literary perspective. Like, even if you were a complete atheist or agnostic and you were going to be a writer, I'd still say to you, you got to read the Bible, because it's where all of our stories come from in the Western world. And then, of course, there's other stories too. You got to read Shakespeare and some Greek story, that kind of stuff. But they have no concept of any of this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, sorry, go ahead. I had a point about Star Wars. I gotta think about it for a second.
Okay. So I mean, my Star Wars. I mean, I think that's what Star Wars needs to do. I think that maybe that Star Wars is Star Wars salvageable? Maybe. Is Star Trek? I don't really see how Star Trek comes back from. Well, I shouldn't say that. All they had to do was just make stuff like the classic Star Trek, like original or next gen or any of that stuff.
I think Star Trek is. I think Star Trek is easy, and some people think that they've already started to do that.
I don't know that they can. Like, I don't know they're physically able to do it. What have they put out? That
the theory is that this thing with I don't know if it was a fan film or it was kind of a side thing, with that had Kirk in it, and was that short that they did, and I didn't see it. The theory is that all this, I haven't followed a lot of the newer stuff, so I don't know it myself, but my understanding is that all this Kelvin timeline and all the garbage that has kind of come from that point is they could just kind of pull the plug on that.
Yeah.
And just say, none of that. It's like, we ended up. They could take anything out they want more easily than they can with some other properties. They could just say, look, it was TNG. I'm sorry, the original series, TNG, DS9, Voyager. They could even discard Enterprise if they wanted to, which probably is a good idea because it kind of screwed some things up. But they can just say, look, this is it. This is the canon. As it was at this point, and now we pick up and we go from here. And you could say, yes, you don't have to say it doesn't exist or anything. You could say all this Kelvin Trek and all these other things. Yeah, it was another universe. It's a completely different universe. It's not related to this, and you can get rid of it more easily. And I suppose when you have science fiction and time travel and other dimensions and things, any IP can do that. But I think it's very easy to do with Star Trek because of the way that they interjected it in the first place. They literally made it as an alternate timeline from the beginning, and the only real flaw there, in my opinion, was that they attempted to tie it to the older stuff.
Yeah. So I'm gonna push back on that a little bit because I mean I hear people talk about this stuff. We could I mean I don't think it matters. It doesn't. nobody cares. Like everyone's all the the super geeks and the people who are super fans are all like, how could they change it and make it? I mean, who cares? You come out and you just say, hey, that stuff never happened. We don't care. I mean, shows do this all the time. Oh, look, this actress got fired, and now this actress is the person that's taking over this role, and we're not even going to bother to say anything about it. It's just gonna, everyone's just gonna go, yeah, that person was a thing all the time. Who cares?
Okay, but
Nobody cares. We want a good show. We want a good show, a good story. I mean, who cares about oh, we got to figure out how to make it work? No, you don't. Just go and do a good story, and nobody. That's it. Carry on.
Continuity becomes an issue when you have people that are dedicated to destroying continuity. It's like one of those things. It's just like everyone gets along fine until someone starts trouble. And then it's like, okay, now I guess we need to make rules, right? Because so I agree that, well, I would say counterpoint to your counterpoint is that
counterpoint.
Yeah. Is that none of it matters. Nothing I said matters if they don't have good writing. They're not making good stories, like you said. So that's a prerequisite for all of this is they have to have people that are wanting to make, good product.
My point being is that, if I came out, if Star Wars, Star Trek, or any of these IPs come out and they all of a sudden have a great story with a great thing, and if it doesn't fit in 100% perfectly into the back story of whatever else they did before, nobody's going to care. Because they're going to say, wow, this is a great story. I really like that movie, TV show, whatever. Oh, who cares if Admiral Akbar's skin is yellow instead of a tannish, whatever. Nobody cares. They want a good story. All this, we seem to focus on, I think it distracts from the whole, hey, write us a good story. And people should be just demanding a good story instead of going, we want a good story, but here's how you could do it to make it fit into all this crap that you put. Pretend the crap never happened. I mean, that's what you want to do.
You can, but you can have an in-universe reason that also matches up.
And I'm okay with that. They can do that if they want, but you don't. But you don't have to. And the whole sort of this is the kind of this isn't particular specifically, but somehow Palpatine returned. I mean, if they can do that in a freaking major movie, I mean, I'm sure somehow Palpatine doesn't exist anymore or whatever doesn't happen.
There's a fundamental problem in all of this. It's like a minefield you walk into, and that is when you decide. I didn't see the accolade. Anyway, so go on. And this is where J.J. Abrams is the worst offender that I know of. And that is when you decide you want your story that's taking place somewhere down the timeline to reach back and I will avoid swearing F with the work that other people have done. George Lucas wrote George Lucas wrote the story about the Emperor's demise, right? J.J. Abrams is a piece of friggin' garbage for coming around and being like, oh no, that story of Return of the Jedi, forget that. This really happened instead. Utterly obliterating the meaning behind the whole thing. That is an unforgivable sin as far as I'm concerned in IPs. You do not dick with the classic core fundamental stories that came before you. Your job is not to rewrite stuff to serve a modern audience or your little BS political whim, whatever it is. Your job is to respect that and then move on.
Yeah.
I'll let you comment on that before I
welcome James in the chat, and Assimilating is in. Hey, Assimilating, how's it going? I mean, I agree in general. However, I will point out the fact that there was, after Return of the Jedi, there was I believe it was a 6 comic book series that came out.
Dark Empire.
And
I'm sorry.
They brought Palpatine back.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I know it was a Dark Horse comic.
Yeah. And I don't think it's not canon or anything like that. But I thought the way that they did it,
well,
I'll give it real quick.
It was for a time.
Was it?
Because you got to keep in mind the expanded universe.
Yeah, it was part of the extended. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was canon until they Disney decanonized it. So in that storyline, just for people who might not know, and Cam, you can correct me if I'm, you can correct any details. It's a long time since I read it. What happened was that Luke, the Emperor, in the Star Wars universe, they've got the outer rim, but the inner core is all cut off from everything, and there's all kinds of weird stuff going on in there, and strange things and creatures and that live in there that we haven't seen in the Star Wars universe. So in that area, the Emperor has got, I don't know, a bunch of planets, and they've all got clones of himself. So when he dies, another clone is, brought out of, to life, and then he carries on. And Luke finds out about this somehow, and he tries to get close to the Emperor in order to destroy them. And at the same time, he's sort of becoming he's walking the line between dark and light.
He becomes Palpatine's apprentice.
He becomes his apprentice, and we're not sure throughout the story whether he's actually gone over to the dark side, or is he, trying to get trying to get close enough to the Emperor to kill him. And so that's pretty good story writing, because I remember reading it and I'm like, oh no, I don't know which way he's gonna go. And of course, in the end, he just he turns to the light, destroys the Emperor's cloning facility or whatever it is. So I mean, that's sort of the general overall thing. But again, did he go to the dark and then come back to the light, or was he with the light all the time? I thought it was fairly well done. But
I read it at the time, and in that era, it was like, yeah, I'll take what I can get, Yeah. But it's not good. It's a story that I don't think should have existed in there. It violates a lot of stuff from my personal view on that.
Well, my view is that that's a good way to do. You can do a storyline. You can sort of bring back Palpatine. It doesn't take away from what Luke and Vader does and all that stuff, but it's a way you can. I'm trying to use that as a point that it can be done, and I thought it was done fairly well in that story line. So I'm not going to say absolutely, if you bring Palpatine back, you're completely destroying, what happened in Return of the Jedi. It depends how you did it. You can bring it back in a way that
true.
But I agree with you that they did destroy those stories in what JJ did, for sure. They did it poorly. They destroyed those stories.
And there's a difference between undoing what someone did and saying something came afterwards. It's like I said, I think from my opinion, bringing the Emperor back, one, it's lame. Two, it's just a bad idea for the reasons I stated. The feat of the Emperor is that story. And sorry, I
agree. I agree. They did a bad job. They shouldn't have brought him back. I'm just saying it could be done in a good way. They didn't do it in a good way. They blew it up.
And I think those kinds of stories are better. That's the problem I have with the expanded universe is that it was pretty much, they're like, sure, it's all works, it all together. It's like, I mean, the story doesn't even make sense to me with the Zahn trilogy. They don't go well together, in my opinion. And It would have been, I don't like it at all. I think it would have been better for these things to be more like Elseworlds kind of concepts. It's like, yes,
I like the Zahn stories.
Yeah, and at the time they were like, oh my gosh, this is a worthy successor. I mean, this is before the prequels.
Of course, this was immediately after, like within a couple years after Timothy Zahn's first novel came out.
I want to say it was the early '90s, but I could be wrong.
I thought it was earlier than that, but anyway, no, I thought they were good. I mean, it made sense. It's fine. I mean, when the Empire falls, what's going to happen? I mean, you think it's just going to roll over?
And there's
going to be a battle to grow the Republic, and that could be a very reasonable and interesting story.
Right, and that's where I think the Thrawn trilogy did a good job. And I mean, Dark Empire did to a degree as well. But again, Dark Empire chronologically comes after the Thrawn trilogy. And that's, to me, these are two separate branches, and they should not coexist. But I mean, we're not here to talk about that specifically. But Thrawn trilogy is 91 and 93, by the way.
Okay,
but let me make a point, if I may, a larger point in regards to all this. And I don't think we're going to get to a lot of different things here, but let's just roll with it. One of the things that I think might upset some people is that I'm not a purist in terms of settings and things of this nature. for example, Star Wars or Star Trek. I welcome the DS9 type of show. DS9 is my favorite Star Trek, and I understand it is definitely very different from the original series concept.
Yeah.
But I've said it many times on this show and others that the setting is what makes me love something, and how you do that. And Deep Space Nine explored that setting, and I have similar feelings and thoughts in regards to Star Trek. Some people are like, if it's not the Skywalker saga, it's not Star Wars. Well, I don't I don't subscribe to that view. I understand that it's what it is and it has its own place and things, but the Star Wars universe, in my opinion, is much larger than that. It's kind of the central point of the Star Wars universe. Obviously, it's the basis for it, but I don't think there's anything wrong in theory with having other kinds of stories set in the same universe, even the same era, like the rebellion. The rebellion era is really what I care about in Star Wars, and of course the Skywalker
It is
saga.
richest, most interesting.
Right,
Yeah.
the Skywalker saga is all over it, but it's a big galaxy. There's a lot of things going on that don't have to involve the Jedi, and that's a pet peeve of mine with the expanded universe. Is how many times it's like, how many times do they have to tell the story? It's like, oh, this guy's a secret Jedi and blah blah blah. It's like, can someone not be a Jedi, please? Can you just have a group of people? And that's, again, Rebels. I was a big fan of that show, but when they started, they immediately did. It wasn't like it was a surprise. They went into it immediately, the Jedi thing. It's like, and I was just like, could they please have done something without the Jedi? And not to negate the Jedi thing, but to keep it unique in what it was for that time period. Well, no, they didn't.
I didn't mind the Rebels. I thought Rebels was kind of, it kind of walked the line between the kids and the adult stuff, which a lot of some of the animated stuff in Star Wars does. I didn't have trouble with the Jedi because I thought it was an interesting story about how, okay, all the Jedi are dead, and we've got that, having a few stories, focused on this one Jedi who's kind of a, like, how did he escape? Because he's not really a good Jedi. He's kind of a, on the edge a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that can be an interesting story, but I would agree with you that every story doesn't have to have a Jedi. The Star Wars universe is huge. You could do tons of bounty hunter stories. That's always very
Sure.
interesting.
Well,
you could do criminals. There's all kinds of stuff.
Right, and Rebels did. The storyline wasn't completely about the Jedi, right?
No.
Ezra
It was more about the Rebels.
Right. They were dealing with these other historical events in the time frame that I really loved. So, so it worked for me. But I am, like I said, I'm not a purist. I don't. These things that have big universes,
Yeah,
there's a lot of room for all this other stuff.
And I completely agree with you there. There's lots of room. The Star Wars universe is huge.
Yeah.
You could do all kinds of different stories, and they don't have to be about any of that. It doesn't have to be about, and having some sort of, you could do a great story where you've got seasons or various movies about something, and then just have a sort of a Jedi just poke their nose in a little, like, once, or to see one or something.
Well,
because let's face it, the Jedi are not that. We from the prequels, we know that the Jedi are like, there's not that many of them, and it's very rare to see one. Like, some big thing happens on a planet, and then two of them show up. There's no Jedi on this planet of a few billion people, and then there's a big trade dispute. So these two Jedi show up to negotiate. Like, they're not like someone you see every day. They're not like a cop.
Right. Most people would probably have never seen one.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're on Coruscant because they're there.
Yeah.
But it's and that's part of the story, actually, of how they kind of, overthrew them as well, is they were able to effectively lie because people didn't have the direct experience with them.
Yeah.
Yes, they think Sabine is not a Jedi. Yeah, it's insanely stupid that again, people say, oh, girl boss, whatever. I love Sabine as a character. Sabine had her own niche for what she did. She was very girl bossy in the sense that she was great at what she did, but she had her niche, and she did it well. And slapping the Jedi stuff on top of her is absolutely just pure garbage. It's just horrible. And again, I was a Dave Filoni fan at the time, and he has done
I'm a little skeptical.
Well, again, look at Rebels and Clone Wars, and I think Well, I can't say most, but I think prior to the sequels ruining everything, I think that most people would have been like, yeah, okay, sure. They wouldn't have a lot of problems. I'm sure some people do have problems with those things, but in my
Yeah,
opinion, the those animated series were some of the better things. I know people like the original Clone Wars more so, but in my opinion, the Clone Wars animated made the prequels way better. The prequels on their own aren't very good. The Clone Wars filled them out very nicely. And I know people probably these days aren't too big on Ahsoka either, but I loved Ahsoka as a character, and I liked when she came back on Rebels and all these other things. But now, yeah,
yeah.
everything's you know
I generally like the Ahsoka character as well. I will say that Clone Wars for me was very hit and miss because there's some episodes when I started watching, I go, this is like lame. This is like a kid, a kid's Saturday morning cartoon level of stuff where no one gets
well,
shot, and
yeah, it
some of the
was in a
other
lot
ones
of
were
ways.
better.
That
But
show has a wide range of things. Some of it's
yeah, yeah,
pretty. It's like, wow, that's pretty uh, brutal. I mean, there's some dark stuff
yeah.
in that series.
And some of it's very the
Yeah, some of
opposite.
it's very
So
light. Yeah.
yeah, it's very and just like so light as to me go, come on, like even a 8-year-old kid's not gonna buy this crap. That's how I felt. But I see that some people are very much more pro than me about it. But that's fine. No
James
big deal.
James says in here the arc theme has to be mythological,
Yeah,
referring to Star Wars, I assume. I don't think so. Well, I take that back. The theme, yes, it has this undercurrent. The Force and everything is
yes,
that thing that makes Star Wars. You can't just say, "Oh, we're going to remove the Force and all that goes with it," and still have the same story. It's not. So it does have to be there, but I don't think every story has to focus on it.
yeah,
It is the undercurrent that does it. And again, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, well, every story doesn't have to be about some morally, gray character. Every story doesn't have to be about the Force, or at least
yeah.
not focusing on it. My opinion.
Okay, so I wanted to get to I I think that so of those two properties, I think that I mean, not that everything can be saved. Star Wars appears to be with the this weekend and the Star Wars celebration where they're going the fans. We love the fans. I mean, it's pretty late. They should have done that. What the hell?
Wow,
Why didn't they do
in the
that?
same week, in
Yeah,
the same week when they have their actors attacking the fans.
yeah, 10 years ago. I mean, did you really 10 years ago? So 10 years ago, you haven't cared about the fans. So 10 years ago, you sat and say, but did you sit down and say, okay, we're gonna write some more Star Wars? Screw the fans. We don't give a crap what they think. Let's just write whatever we want. Like, why would you even do that? But anyway, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt, even though I don't think they really deserve it. Let's say that maybe that they can save themselves. And for evidence of that, I would say that within this past 10-year period, not every Star Wars has sucked so bad. A lot of them are really bad, but there have been little bright points of some light in there. And for me, it would be um, uh, Andor is a pretty good show, and also what's the other one with Jyn Erso, uh,
Rogue One.
Rogue One, and that shows that they can do something that is at least at least passable and watchable. So
Well,
there's
I
something there. Now,
I loved Rogue
Star
One.
Trek. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I loved Rogue One. I know a lot of people
Yeah, I like
dislike it because it tramples on expanded universe stuff, but that's not my
yeah, I'm
basis.
I'm looking at it at how it fits into the real universe. But yeah, I liked Rogue One too. The so to me, Star Wars has shown that they said, okay, well, we can do some good stuff in there, and there's other stuff in there that other people like. We can do some good stuff. Now, Star Trek, has Star Trek done anything? I mean, even Strange New Worlds, which I would say seemed to be an attempt to get back to the original type of Star Trek with the captain and everything. I mean, they did, the Klingon uh musical episode, and like, what the hell is going on with that? What, I can Star Trek save itself? Haven't seen any indication that it can or that it wants to.
I would agree.
It's your turn to say something.
I would agree that they don't seem to have any desire to really correct. So, yeah, I mean, they're just immersed in idiocy. That said, they're still under the excuse me, the umbrella of what's Kurtzman.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to get out from that.
So I'm less of those two IPs. I'm less confident about Star Trek. They haven't done anything to show me that. I mean, we talk about what's the cartoon one that they do? I mean, that one is kind of that's kind of a parody of Star Trek and like a poking fun at it. I don't know that it's real Star Trek. It can be funny, and there's all kinds. There's like at least 3 callbacks to Star Trek in every episode or so. But I don't know that it's really Star Trek.
Well, okay, so I think the one that people would point to would be Picard
Lower
season
Decks,
3.
Yeah. Sorry, Picard season 3. Oh God.
Yeah, where I didn't
Lower
watch
Decks,
the whole
yeah.
thing, but
Sorry,
I think the whole Picard thing. To me, they threw out a bunch of member berries. I mean, just loaded it up, which is better than what they had been doing. But it's like throwing whipped cream on top of a pile of crap. You can't fix it at that point.
I watched all 3 seasons of that show. The first 2 seasons was horrible. It's just some of the worst BS writing you've ever seen in your life, throwing shit together. And I'm just like, this is just garbage. It doesn't make any sense even. Science fiction has to make sense within the universe that you're creating. It was just complete and utter garbage. And then, this kind of pisses me off a little bit. Then season 3 came out and they go, oh, they're going to bring back all these guys and blah, blah, blah. And everyone's like, yay. And that's what we want to see. I'm like, what? How can you take that abortion of a first 2 seasons and garbage and just throw a couple guys on? Oh yeah, it's not exactly. It's a pile of crap and it's putting whipped cream on it. And,
yeah, exactly.
I was like, this is not going to save the show. And
if
it wasn't even that good.
If it was just done on its own, and they said, okay, somehow they discarded the baggage of the first 2 seasons, then you could say, okay, yeah, I mean, they did what Star Wars didn't, right? It's like they brought all the people back together. Everybody wanted to see that. I'm sure a lot of people wanted to see the Enterprise D again, but it was so overtly member berries, that it's like at some point I just got to be, okay, so, you can't buy me back at that point. You know what I'm saying?
I have to disagree. I mean, maybe Picard season 3 is TNG season 8. If it was, then it's crap because it does not rise up to the level of, TNG. It's just garbage. That's not a good, in my view, this is not a good, saying season 3 is TNG season 8. I mean, like, oh, that's embarrassing. There's TNG writers rolling over their grave about that. Simulating asked, Cam, did you get a new mic? I guess people can tell.
Yes, the answer is yes. So
people can tell.
Hopefully it sounds good.
So, okay, do you want to go? We want to, I mean, it's 53 minutes in the show already. We've only talked about 2. We're supposed to talk about these first 4 IPs and just get them over with in 10 minutes. But anyway, okay, so I'll summarize my position. I think Star Wars can be saved. I mean, everything can be saved. Star Wars seems to be able to be saved. They seem to be going towards something, maybe saving it. I'm not sure. Star Trek, can it be saved? Sure. But I don't see any evidence that they want to save it yet. Now, maybe they'll be, maybe they will. But anyway, that's mine. My take on those 2. Cam, you want to do a summary on those 2 and then we'll move on? Or what?
No, I think I agree with you on that.
Okay, so Doctor Who and Marvel. Doctor Who, I gave up on Doctor Who after like the Capaldi. I mean, I didn't really watch the Capaldi seasons, but before that, I watched some of the the Tennant and the guy who plays the Dragon Rider on Game of Thrones. Those seasons and stuff like that, and I enjoyed those, but I don't know that they can, they've put out their new season has come out with this new guy, and apparently it's just tanking. I hear. I don't know that Doctor Who, that they want to save Doctor Who. I think they're probably going to have to put it on hiatus for, again, 10 years or something like that again.
Well,
I don't know.
Once again, okay, so Doctor Who, I watched it, the old school ones when I was a kid, on public TV or whatever, and when they revived it in when was it, early 2000s, I guess, I watched that through Tennant's run, and then with I was like, Matt Smith, I jumped off, but I think a lot of people like the Matt Smith stuff, and even through Capaldi, and then they went fully overboard with the I forget the actress's name, the woman,
The chick,
yeah, and I got to tell you, even that, the Doctor being a woman, I think it's probably, it's not a choice I would make, but I think they could have made that work. But the stuff that they did along with it, again, it's not just the storytelling; it's the garbage they pile along with it, right?
Yeah.
And that wasn't, that just wrecked it. But once again, here's what they did the same thing. The unforgivable sin of this is, again, I didn't watch it, but I kind of followed it, was the whole thing where they established the Doctor and the regeneration and all that. It's like, oh, it's some magic girl or whatever, and there's a billion of them, that they, I guess the time, the Gallifreyans, experimented on or whatever. It's like, what is this garbage that they've done to the show? It's like, how do you fix that? How do you change that trash? That they just gutted the entire lore of the entire IP, far beyond what they've done to Star Wars or Star Trek.
Yeah. So, Dave, I know Matt Smith. I was kind of making a joke there. Jodie Whittaker is the other one, and that's the thing, is that I don't really care if the Doctor is a girl or a boy. I mean, they've had, usually they have the Doctor and he's got a companion, one or two. Usually it's if he's a male, it's a female. And, it's not like the women are written, at least in the later years, they're not all written like damsels in distress that the Doctor has to save all the time. They have agency. They're written as, characters with more depth, and they can, come up with ideas and that kind of stuff. They're not stupid. So this whole, we got to write, we want to make the Doctor a girl, and not only do we have to make her a female, she's got to, you piss on males from that, and just sort of, oh, now I'm a girl and I can really do stuff and I'm way better. And like, no, just make it a female and be Doctor Who. What's the problem?
And so
you don't have to piss on what came before.
The quality of the writing doesn't even matter at that point, because it's so blatantly obvious that they're interjecting this other garbage that has nothing to do with storytelling, and that's exactly, that's their purpose. And it's like, so when you make that clear, why would anyone care? Why would anyone who cared about those kinds of stories or that IP bother to keep tuning in?
Yeah. So I don't know if Doctor Who's savable. Marvel.
It isn't.
It's not savable.
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna Marvel up to phase 3 did such a great job. They took 20 or so movies, they put them together in an overarching, a comic book storyline, with the Infinity Saga. I mean, that is some pretty good movie storytelling. You have to agree with that, right? No, you're not gonna agree.
No, I think it. I don't love it as much as some people do. I love certain parts of it, but certainly, yes, it was extremely popular. It was not, a bunch of political garbage for the most part, and not until, Captain Marvel came into it, maybe.
Yeah, I just think, that up to phase 3, the majority of those films were very good. They fit together. Yeah, there were some stinkers. Captain Marvel was a garbage movie. And, some of the, looking back now, they're not as bad, excuse me. But, at the time, Thor 2, The Dark World was not, people were not raving about it.
Right.
But looking back now, you're going, oh, wow, that's not so
bad.
I
agree with it, man.
But, they fit into this big, and no one had done that before. We have this giant Marvel universe. We're going to put a bunch of different stories in it, and they're all going to kind of weave together. And I'm like, hey, that's pretty good storytelling. Can they save it? I think they can. But they have to go back to that idea, that root of, hey,
Well,
we're going to start. We got 20 years, 15 years, whatever, 10, 15 years. We're going to put it together. This is how we're going to do it. They started it and they screwed it up with Phase 4, and now they're trying to pedal back with Robert Downey Jr. and Doctor Doom, and just like the Justice League, if you're going to half-ass it, you're going to screw it up. So I would say that the Justice League, the problem with that is they're like, oh, look what Marvel did. We need to do the same thing. We got to get to this Justice League movie, but instead of taking 10 years to get to the final boss, we're going to do it in 3, and then you just can't do it. You got to take the time.
I think
I think they can do it, but I don't know if they have the will to do it.
I think that they've burned their goodwill really significantly. And they've made structural problems. The all the multiverse crap, and then things like She-Hulk, and I mean they really just and not only that, they have. Okay, there are 70 some years of comics, modern-ish comics, right, to draw on. Well, maybe 50 some, 60 with Marvel. So there is plenty of material, but not all of those properties are good, right? And they've burned so many of them now, right? It's like after, like I said, after Phase 3 or whatever, they started just turning them to garbage. And look at they bring Fantastic Four into things, and it's not looking good.
I'm not sure. Jason's talked about this on his show about how the Fantastic Four should go, and I like his idea for the Fantastic Four, which is basically set them in the 60s. Do all this retro 60s stuff. They're actually in an alternate world, and they're going to come over.
Okay, but wrong choice in my opinion. Well, first of all, the 60s thing, yes, I came up with just for my own friends and everything, a story involving the Fantastic Four 10 or 12 years ago, which was again based in the past. But instead of having a movie where they do such a horrible job of burning through material. It's like, why are they doing this? Why aren't they, dedicating the time to these stories that make sense? Like DC, you did the same thing. It's like they jumped right into Dark Knight Returns with no foundation for it.
Yeah. In
my opinion, Fantastic Four would have been much better as a continuing TV series in which they start out again, in like the movie is doing, they're basically in their own universe, it seems, in the past, and then you base a story on that, and you kind of move forward, and at some point maybe they cross over, and where they merge. But you could have told like the reason I started thinking about it is because well, maybe that was later in the process, some point in there. But Mad Men, right? If you've ever seen that show, it was started in 1960, and it basically told it was a period piece essentially, and it's when Fantastic Four started, 1963, I guess, and
62, 63, something like that. Yeah,
they could have had this really cool retro show.
Yeah, retro futuristic. Yeah,
right, and my concept for it was that Reed is like a superhuman intelligence, right? He's not just a smart guy. They in the MCU they made Stark this genius, but Reed blows him away. Reed is
one of the most intelligent characters in the Marvel universe.
Right, exactly. And it's like, imagine if that was brought to the real world. This guy that is making inventions as things that transform the world. And that was kind of the basis for my thing is you start out in real world 1964 and then you start moving forward, maybe an accelerated pace. It's not like year to year or something, but maybe you cover 3 years per season or 4 years per season or something like that. And you see how he changes the world, and so in 1980, let's say they get to in that universe is very different from 1980 in the real world. Right.
A lot of way advanced,
right? And so I mean, the stories for that are endless, and And Fantastic Four alone, you don't need anything else for the Fantastic Four. They've got, they go into the microverse and the negative zone and all the, they do all these things, these crazy
Alternate
stories you could tell.
dimensions, all
Yeah,
kinds.
exactly.
Yeah, you can
They've
tell
got
all kinds.
great villains. They get into the other universe, the rest of the galaxy and the universe and all these cosmic things, all crosses over. Galactus, obviously a big example of that. There's so much they could have done with that, and they're gonna burn all of this in one crap ass movie. That's what they're gonna do.
It's probably yeah. Iron Man 3, not good.
Yeah, MS, you're talking about Pedro. Horrible casting, absolutely worse.
Yeah, let's go. Let me just work my way down to too much DI in the Marvel and DCU. Need to start purging. Need to purge to start copying some of the greatest stories of the comics. Yeah, Secret Wars. There's all kinds of stuff they could pull on. 3-year streaming series of Fantastic Four, then movie after, something like that. Not a bad idea. Pedro looks horrible in the trailers. Nothing screams intelligent. What was his name? Ion Goldfield, the guy who did the first Reed Richards in the movies there.
Oh yeah, Horatio Hornblower, Yoan Giffords.
I can never pronounce his name properly.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry. He looks like Reed Richards to me. Like, bring him back. What the hell? Like, or find a guy who looks like him. He looks great.
Well, you know what? The guy that we always and my little friend always wanted was Alexis Denisof, who was in Buffy and Angel.
Oh yeah.
He's a thin guy, a little now he's a little older, he would have been good for Reed. He would have been a very good casting for him.
Yeah, they're like Pedro Pascal, that's the first minus. And then this whole, they're talking about Susan Storm and making it a very, it's gonna be about her and gender or something or other. And they're like, oh my God. It's the 60s. They should be Reed should be slapping Susan Storm's ass every time she walks by in the thing. Hey, honey,
okay.
bringing me that chocolate cake. Well, give me a sandwich. Whack. Oh,
okay.
That would be funny. Eh? It would be funny to see that. Wouldn't you laugh? You'd be like,
Yeah, I would. But here's the thing.
Hilarious.
Sue Storm did evolve in the comics. Again, she was the Invisible Girl, right? She was a throwaway character that didn't. What'd she do? She turns invisible. And as it went, by the time you're in the 80s with John Byrne and his run, one of the best runs of all time, in my opinion, he had developed this. Not just him, but he did a lot to develop Sue as a character. She became the Invisible Woman. So, again, at that point, it's
not a girl, a woman.
Once again, all of these things that, in 2017, these people think that they invented feminism or whatever. All of these issues were dealt with, right, in the story in a credible way that people enjoyed.
She's arguably the most dangerous of the Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah, all the Fantastic Four are actually all very high power level, right?
Yeah. They're
but Sue, you could easily make the argument, and John Byrne did, that she is the most powerful member of the team, and because the stuff she can do is absolutely nuts. If you have some imagination.
What if I start a tiny little minuscule force field in your brain and I quickly expand it?
You're right.
What are you going to do about that? Nothing. You're dead.
Right.
Like these kind of comments, from the comics, you're like, yeah, I mean, geez. Weatherman makes a good point. She's the glue that keeps the characters together. Yes, she's the mother type.
Until Namor comes around, and then all bets are off.
Yeah.
That's kind of. It's kind of true.
That's kind of, I mean, but that's kind of the, that's the, it's a good point, right? Reed's in his thing, worried about himself. Johnny's off whoring around, and Ben is getting mad at Johnny. Those guys could easily break up and say, I'm tired of you guys.
Well,
that guy doesn't care about me. That guy's an asshole. I'm done.
Here's another thing. Now that you mention that, it's like, I'm sure people are familiar with this. At some point, the thing left the team, and She-Hulk, took over. Came right after Secret Wars. This happened, and it was like that was a great story too. And I mean, it's like the way they brought her into this team, and she fit, and they could have done stuff like that. But again, now they've made She-Hulk a stupid joke.
Yeah.
It's so okay. All of this that my point is that they're not going to fix any of this because they're too short sighted now. It's just like, oh, we got okay, grab all the and I'm not
Yeah.
clear what they're doing with all these other characters like the X-Men characters and everything. They're doing some kind of nonsense, but it's all the same short sighted garbage instead of producing a good quality TV show
and
that
taking the time to do it.
yeah,
Here's
exactly.
my theory. It's that you get some hotshot director and he goes, oh, I want to do the Secret Wars or whatever thing.
Mhm.
So I've got my one movie. I want to do this cool thing, so I'm going to just pack it in there. When there should be somebody, at the higher end, which seemed to be like they had during Marvel Phase 1 to 3, someone saying, "No, you can't. You're not doing that. That storyline is gonna take place over a 10-year period, and we're gonna build up to it. And if you want to do this movie and you do a good job, maybe we'll give you this one, and then maybe you can do this one, and maybe you'll get to do the final movie, right? You'll maybe get to do Infinity Wars, or maybe you'll get to do that
Well,
end game at the end if you show us you know what you're doing. But you got to spread it out. You can't just throw it together.
well, why? It always befuddles me that they're not able to learn the lesson that is right in front of them, and that is the comics. It's like, oh, we're going to do this or that. It's like, why don't you just do this storyline that everyone loved and is already written, and you just
Yeah.
adapt it? No, you always have some idiot like J.J. Abrams
Yeah.
who decides, oh, I got to stick my fingers in all this and make it mine, or whatever arrogant nonsense motivates these people. You could do things like Secret Wars, though, is the point I'm trying to make. Is you could have, yeah, it's a movie. They do the Secret Wars thing. It's like, you have a Fantastic Four show running, and you have maybe a series of, maybe an Avengers show, a Spider-Man show, and all these things. And
They all come together.
Yeah, they do come together, right? I mean, and they did
In
that.
a movie.
Infinity Wars and all those things were, all these characters coming together. So why not save that for features?
Yeah.
These big storylines.
Yeah. You're making a good point. I mean, I use Secret Wars as a story, one of the big storylines that could be built up to. I don't mean it specifically, but you're actually right. I would agree that Secret Wars you could have done Secret Wars as the first thing of Phase 4. I think you're saying that here, yeah. And you could be just like, we've introduced all the characters now. They're gonna get taken away, and there's gonna be this big storyline. Whatever, maybe it's 3 movies, maybe it's 1, maybe it's whatever, because they've already been.
I got to tell you,
pull the same guys together. But yeah.
I don't think that Infinity War or Infinity Gauntlet storyline was the best choice for the first big crossover. It's too cosmic, I think it would have been better if they started out more Earth based, doing some of those things, and then maybe a second round go to something like the Infinity War, where they are introducing the much larger Marvel universe.
Yeah.
I mean, people liked it, so you can't argue with that.
So, I mean, they could have picked a different story. I don't really care. I think this was this was a big storyline, and they built up. For me, it's the whole Infinity War. It's the whole building up to it and doing it. The way that it was teased throughout through the Avengers movies and that kind of stuff. They did a good job with that, but it could have been any storyline. That was good. Weatherman, all you got to do is keep the old characters, recast them like they did with Bond. I mean, this is the kind of point I was kind of making at the beginning of the show with this whole, we gotta make sure that this fits into the canon and stuff. Nobody cares. Well, the vast majority of people don't care. There's a bunch of nerds who care about finding that stuff up. But yeah, just recast them, and don't even say, they went to the cosmetic surgeon, or they make up some bullshit. Just say, hey, here's the guy, and pretend that's the guy from the beginning, and just carry on with it. Nobody cares. People get recast all the time. They're too old for the characters. Yeah, and then you can bring back the old guy when you do the alternate universe, like you do the alternate universe Batman or something. Yeah, here's the old version of Batman or whoever it is. Recast the guy. It's not a big deal. Everyone understands that this guy is too old to play this guy now. We're going to use someone else.
Yeah.
Weatherman's going to disagree with MS. Secret Wars needs a build-up, just like Infinity War. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, another problem with Marvel is their licensing was such a mess, right? And you've got the X-Men and Fantastic Four, and I think some others, Spider-Man, that were all, not under the same umbrella, so they couldn't do those things. I mean, they did actually pull off some pretty big tricks by bringing some of these characters in, like Spider-Man, namely.
Well, that problem is basically solved itself, except for the Spider-Man problem, right?
I guess.
Well, pretty much. Those things are all under, Fox and who has the X-Men. They're all together, and they're now under, the same group that has, Disney Marvel. So Spider-Man is the only guy that's on the.
Well, they're still under Sony, right?
Yeah, but I think that they've come to a deal with Sony, right? They basically went to Sony and said, "Hey, let us have Spider-Man for our, our Infinity War movie. We will sell Spider-Man for you because we'll keep it together with this great property that we have." And it worked, right? Sony's sitting, Sony didn't make a third Amazing Spider-Man movie because Spider-Man died, right? What's his name? The Andrew Garfield didn't get a third movie, right? Because they're like, "Oh, this sucks." And then they're like, "Oh, we'll resurrect it. We'll use Marvel to push yours, and you'll make tons of money." And the three Super Spider-Man movies with what's his name there, Tom, the little kid there, they made good money, right? I think it's Spider-Man's doing fine with
MS. I think they still have it for their standalones or whatever. I'm not sure what the deal is, but I'm
my
pretty sure.
Understanding is that the first thing was that Sony bought Spider-Man, right, to save Marvel the first time, and that was an in perpetuity IP, which is why Marvel doesn't do this anymore. They've lost Spider-Man for movies forever, unless they can come to some change the agreement, right? Like the Fantastic Four IP was that they had to make a movie. If you didn't make a movie in over 10 years, then you would you lose the IP and that kind of stuff. But I don't think the Spider-Man one, I think, is just in perpetuity or something like that. Something super long that yeah.
Well, okay. So Weatherman's talking about Doom. Well, obviously, first of all, the whole thing with Robert Downey Jr. and Doom, which I guess is what they're doing, that's garbage. That's the exact opposite of what you said, Snob, about they just recast as somebody else. Now they're rehashing their popular actors into other roles at this point, which is the opposite of that.
I'm not a big fan of this. I mean, I think they're going to do some sort of alternate multiverse thing. They're going to say that Tony Stark becomes Doom or some shit like that. I'm not a big fan of it.
No, that's first of all, okay.
I assume. I don't know.
When you start jumping into multiverse stuff and using it to justify keeping going, you're already on thin ice, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So they should be doing that very sparsely. Again, if they wanted to bring in Doom in, the Fantastic Four movie, which clearly they're doing Galactus, I guess, instead, they could have. But again, it's Fantastic Four has such a rich amount of adversaries and things that you can't shove all that in a movie or two, and it's a stupid idea to try.
Why does this always jump to Galactus right off the bat?
I don't know. It's a bad idea. That's one of those things that should be the end of it.
He is a Phase 3 type villain, like the Purple Grimace and all those other guys.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a guy you save for the end there, right? And it should take the entire heroes to defeat him, type of thing. Why do you want to pull it? I was even in the second of the Fantastic Four movies, the first ones that they put out there. I was surprised to see Galactus. He was in the second movie, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was surprised to see Civil Service and him. I was surprised to see. I'm like, what? Galactus is already here? Whoa. And I'm not even a big Marvel fan. And I was like, well, Galactus is like a world-eating sort of. These guys are going to fight him off the bat. Isn't this sort of thing you take in the third movie that you build up to? And
okay, so what are we getting around to here in terms of what's the problem with Marvel? And that is
self-inspiration,
that they are burning material and short-term thinking, which is especially stupid considering that their success came by not doing that. They know how to not do that, but they're doing it. right? I mean, they look like you said, with 20 movies or whatever built up to the big finish of first three phases. They It's like saying you have a master carpenter or something, or a craftsman of some sort that does all these things, and then they just go, "Oh, by the way, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do something completely different that doesn't work." It's like, are you insane? Did you literally lose your mind? So these things befuddle me that they can't just copy their own formula.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're going to burn. I mean, they have already. With these garbage TV shows they've made.
Yeah, those are pretty bad.
They're burning through characters, and I mean, again, a lot of these are third tier characters in the first place, and that's not to say you can't make them interesting. You can't do good things with them, but it's not the same as the X-Men or Spider-Man or the Avengers, right?
Yeah.
You can't just throw anything at it and expect that to the IP to carry you through.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can do a good story. You don't have to be fighting Galactus and saving the galaxy every day. You can do good stories like, with much lower power level people like Daredevil and Punisher. You can do good movies with those characters. Daredevil and Punisher movie, yeah, it might be good. Like, it's all, for me, it's like all based on the writing. I think I did this. Jumping the shark, need to build up. MS says, if you're not introducing characters and making new character arcs, you can't make 3 phases for every big character. That's the point. Yeah, I mean, every character doesn't have to be 3 phases, but I use the 3 phase as an example of how Marvel has been very successful, and it's something that no one else has done. Taking a whole 20 movies and just having them all be movies in their own right, but also have them push a little bit towards, most of them, towards some sort of big something that's happening. And we haven't seen that in movies before. And, it was a lot of people enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I like seeing that. Marvel has a problem in its comics too. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about comics, is that there's some storylines that work and some that don't, and you have the because you've got 50 plus years of comics, both DC and Marvel, you can go in and you can pick the good ones and say, oh, we're just going to forget that this ever happened, but we know that this is good because the people loved it, and it's got awards, and everybody says it's good, so we can pick the good and throw out the bad. You don't have to roll the dice. You have guaranteed good storylines, and you can go with them. Same with DC. You've got some good, the Flashpoint paradox. You've got a lot of good storylines that you can go through and say, yeah, this is good, this is bad. We can just go with this one. Galactus should be one of the last villains you ever see. Yeah, I mean, he's a galaxy. I mean, not galaxy ending, but world ending, and a giant galactic force. You need to build up to that, right? Yeah.
So, to sum up, stop. I think the Marvel Universe can be fixed. They should use the multiverse.
Sorry, can be fixed?
Yes, they should use the multiverse that they've interjected in here to clean up the garbage and eject it, and then shut it down, and then go back to the formula that worked, and or just simply follow the wealth of comic stories that you have and adapt them faithfully. It's very simple to do. They won't do it.
Well, they already started to shut it down. They already have a way that they can shut. If I'm not big to this, using canon to. But let's say you are worried. You guys, we got to find a canon way to solve this. They already kind of did it with Loki season 1, right? They talk about the TVA, and the TV there is trying to shut all these branches down and make the one prime multiverse. So you could just simply say, okay, well, we've got this multiverse and we've got all these extra characters around. We're just gonna, do some sort of storyline with the TVA and have them, come back or reestablish themselves, and we're gonna go back to one storyline. And they could just do that and pull everybody together, or cancel some out, or whatever you wanted to do. Kill off these other branches, and if you want a canon way to do it, or something that fits into it so that the super fans don't get mad, you could just do that. I mean, there you go, done. They've already started to do it. They already have the thing in there. You
Yeah.
want to comment on that, Cam?
No, I am going to let your comments stand on their own.
All right. Disagree? Don't care. I mean, if you need to do it within the canon, you could do it that way. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I agree. Shut it all down and bring it back and carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of the easier ones to fix, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that what am I going to say here? The last bunch of Marvel movies have been most of them have been pretty sad. They've had this huge area of, Captain Marvel, the Marvels, the Eternals wasn't very good. They had all these IPs that they're pulling out, and it's just like, why are you doing this? Very questionable.
Well, remember
choices.
they also pulled out the Inhumans for. I mean,
The Humans. Oh, I
did
forgot
that
about
actually
that.
make it to air? I mean, it died
I think it
before
was
it
on
ever.
air. I thought I remember watching the first episode or something.
That was like on ABC, wasn't it?
What the? I mean, it didn't. Yeah, it's just I don't know. They just very questionable. Maybe it's just is it the people they had in charge at the time? It takes 3 years sometimes, 3 to 5 years to get these guys through these shows sometimes. So can we say it's a blip that maybe they just had some bad decisions and they're getting back on it? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, again, as I think whether it was Weatherman or MS mentioned about that they burned a lot of goodwill. It's like I don't watch these shows anymore. I don't watch any of the TV show, the Marvel TV shows.
Yeah.
And partially because of my not watching Disney stuff, new Disney stuff at least. But I just don't want to either. It's they've lost me. I'm a lifelong comic fan.
Yeah.
And what I would have killed for, when I was 13, I don't even care about these days.
Yeah. I'm not, Weatherman says get rid of Feige and his lackeys. I don't know that Feige is the how much of a problem he is. Everyone's like, oh, Feige's great. And I'm like, I'm kind of like, that's my sort of feeling towards him. But again, for me, it comes back to, and I have this discussion, this fight with Jason sometimes. For me, it's about results. And is he bringing the results? No, I'd say no. There's a lot of flops and garbage in there. And of course, his defenders get it and say, well, it's not his fault. They're making him do this and that. And he's got to try to be nice to this person. And he can't just, crap on his boss who sucks, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But in the end, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I don't know. In the end, what are his results? And his results are mediocre at best. So that's how I'm going to judge him. That might change if he does a good job and he saves everything and he comes out with some great stuff. And I'll be like, all right, I was wrong. Maybe he's not such a bad guy. Maybe he was being held back by the idiots who are his bosses. But for now, I can't say that. I don't know. Yeah. Cam, anything?
Well, no.
No, that's it. Okay. All right. So we're coming near the end of the show. We've done an hour and a half. The plan was to talk about the big four and then talk about other IPs, but I think we've failed. We spent the whole time talking about Marvel, Doctor Who, Star Wars, and Star Trek. So I don't know. Do you think we should push this to the next week, Cam? And I mean, we're obviously going to push it because we're in the show.
I don't know. The basis of this idea was that we were going to discuss how to fix Rock and Rule.
Rock and Rule and some other IPs.
Yeah.
So shall we push that off the next week? Should we talk about Rock and Roll and a bunch of other science fiction IPs?
Why not?
Why not?
I think and do you want to discuss? We discussed, inviting the audience to come in and talk about their favorite IP.
Yeah, and we didn't get much beyond that. So I think maybe next week we should do that. We'll run it like a radio call-in show. We'll put the link out there, and then people can jump in, and we'll let you. We'll leave you in the waiting room. You can just jump in. We'll leave you in the waiting room. Oh, part 2, hell yeah! All right, somebody likes part 2s, yes. And then we'll leave you in the waiting room. And we'll just come in and you talk about whatever IP it is that you want. to talk about. We'll come in, we'll talk about that, and then we'll send you on your way. And then bring in the next guy to talk about whatever IP. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. I always like when we have the idea for the next show ready to go, and I don't have to think about it. Good show. Going on with this. Oh, Cam in the chat says, great input in the chat. Yeah, great input, guys. We appreciate it. Helping us get on the thing. We like to hear your stuff.
Yes.
So we'll put that off. I'll put a bunch of the science fiction IPs. I have a whole list of them. And this is just a list of various IPs. You guys, I'll put them in the list for next show. And, you can pick one of those. You can pick your own, whatever you want. But the idea is to solve that. Like, there's something wrong with that IP. How would we fix it? So if it's an IP that is perfect and good, I don't think we really want to talk about that one. Do we, Cam? Would you? No?
No, it wouldn't be the first choice.
Yeah, so we would want to talk about something. Oh, spaghetti's almost ready. All right.
Yeah.
Great job.
But Death Angel Shadow's mentioning tomorrow.
You're supposed to be on Jason's show. You're supposed to run the show.
Yeah, hour 2, Death Angel Shadow and I are going to have a little discussion about the current state of Dungeons and Dragons. Spoiler, it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to. I mean, we're getting a little bit over time, but I wanted to say before we've been talking a bit about a dumpster fire right now. Is there any good science fiction that you're watching that you can recommend so that our audience doesn't have to go, ugh, it sucks. I got nothing to, I have to wait until Feige, does something or whatever. Have you got anything? I'm sorry.
Say that again. You're asking what?
Have you got any good science fiction media, TV shows that the audience can watch that you've seen lately that you can recommend so that they don't have to wait for Feige to fix things or for Doctor Who to be 10 years in a hiatus before they get some good science fiction?
Okay. It's not a show, it's a movie, and that is Godzilla -1, in my opinion, is one of the best movies in the last 20 years. James, are we writers? No. Anyway, yeah, Godzilla -1, and they talked this week. I guess they're coming out with a sequel for that. Which?
Oh, really?
Man,
I didn't hear about that. All right. James, I am not a writer. I always wanted to be a writer, but I suck at it. So I'm never good at it. And every time I try to write something, I go, hey, this sounds like this other TV show or something else that I've already heard about. So I always feel like everything I'm doing is copying. So I don't do anything. However, I am an editor, and I'm pretty good at that. I'm pretty good at editing other people's stuff.
Well,
we are not writers. Cam, you want to tell them what you are?
I guess. Let me backtrack for a second. I guess I should say that I did, as on a lark, write a Star Trek episode. Went back in the day when they accepted those things. So I was an amateur writer, I suppose. And if you want to hear my very loose writing ideas, you can look back at episode 2 or 3 of Toplofty Lounge, where I rewrote in an attempt to salvage The Last Jedi. So it's not really writing in terms of, the craft of writing, but it's creative end of it, I guess. So,
yeah.
But no,
we're not by trade. I am a soldier by trade. I mean, when I was young and, not fat and stuff, but anyway, we're not writers. I'm pretty good at editing them. So if you want anything edited,
I suck at editing.
Yeah, I'm good at it. I'm pretty good at it. So not bad. Okay. So what are the exciting? Let me just quick. You're talking about someone else's show. Watsy is killing it and milking it dry. Yeah, they're going to talk about that tomorrow. Okay. I think that's about it for the show. Oh, Cam, you said Godzilla -1. Yeah, I've seen that movie. Good movie. I would say recently I have watched Severance. Both of these are on Apple TV. Severance on Apple TV just finished season 2. It's kind of sciencey. Well, it's science fiction. It's kind of a little weird with what's going on and a bit of a mystery, but I thought it was pretty good. I would recommend people watching it. And the one that I would recommend watching is I finally saw the end of season 2 of Silo, and I really like that show. I think it's based on a book. It's pretty well written, and they're not afraid. The problem I have with a lot of television shows is they're like, "Oh, we've got these people are on the show and they're famous. We can't kill them off." It doesn't matter what the show, how it makes sense in the story to do it. But luckily, this seems to follow the book closely, I assume, because they seem to kill off some characters at the beginning who you think might be the main characters, and then characters go off and do things, and other people get higher, more important roles as the show goes on, and that kind of stuff. So to me, it's a good story. They seem to be following a good story, and a lot of times the television show doesn't do as well as a book because they have these artificialities in there that they go, oh, we can't kill off this main character, he's famous. But I don't see that in the Silo television show, and I'm looking forward to season 3. Okay, let's hear. The Silo books are good. Yeah, I haven't read them, but I like the show. Okay, now I'm curious about what that was about, Cam. Oh, I don't know. What's he talking about, Cam?
He's talking about the Star Trek episode that I submitted.
Oh, the Star Trek episode. Oh, yes. I wanted to write. I never wrote it. I wanted to write a Star Trek episode, TNG, with like the Space Marines. Right? You'd bring in some the Federation Marines. They'd be kind of hard chargers like American Marines, and they'd have some crusty old colonel who would clash with Picard about stuff, and he'd want to go out and kill things, and Picard would be like, "We need to be nice," and he'd be like, "No, we should kill him."
They did have a little bit of that on Enterprise with the Makos or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That happened, and then it happened on the Makos. And I'm like, oh, but I would have done it with. I would have brought in a bird colonel who had a battalion or a brigade, and Picard has to take these guys to assault. It would be fit good in the Dominion War. He's got to take them to assault some planet or something. He's like, we're not supposed to be doing this. I'm not supposed to be transporting. And the place would be overrun with Marines. They'd be, sleeping in the hallways and just everywhere, and everybody would be dislocated, and the kids couldn't go to school because the school would be, I don't know, a training room for the Marines to practice their shooting or, weightlifting or something, right? And it would just be, chaos on the ship, and he'd be going like, and the other guy, a captain is basically colonel, so the other guy would be equal in rank, even though he couldn't run the ship. He'd be like, hey, your job is to take me here. Don't be a jerk, and whatever. But yeah. As you can see, I'm not a very good writer, so I can't write that. But I could have edited it. Oh, well. Yeah. Anyway.
Maybe one day we could talk about my glory that never was of my foray into Star Trek creation.
Yeah, your glory sounds a lot more thought out than mine. Mine's just an idea in my brain.
Yeah, I actually did the whole thing, so.
Yeah, we should make that one of these days. The sequel to Godzilla -1 is 3 years after. Interesting. It's a good show. You should go see Godzilla -1.
Absolutely.
I'm not a big fan of monster movies because they're. I mean, when we grew up, they were kind of cheesy, right? But this was good. It was a good storyline, fixed well, and it actually. I found interesting was that there's some historical aspects about Japanese society and the Japanese military at the time, which is just a bonus, right? That's a little even extra. Yeah.
Yeah. And it I mean, I know that we're trying to end the show here, but in my opinion, Godzilla -1, it pulled off the miracle of making the story about the monster and also about the people, and merging those two things together. It was, again, it's one of the best movies I've seen actually, I just saw something on X about it. It was someone had it named like the 19th best movie of all time or something.
Yeah. The Godzilla movies that are out have been coming out the past couple years, except for this one, of course. They're basically the Transformers of Godzilla movies, right? Would you agree with that, Cam?
Like the recent ones you're saying?
Yeah. They're all flashy and special
Like
effects. Like
the crossover ones with the Kong and stuff you're talking about?
yeah, Kong versus.
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
are just those are the Transformers of Godzilla movies. This Godzilla minus one is a real movie. It's an actual movie. And didn't we review it in one of our shows?
We talked about it.
We talked about it significantly. You made me watch it, and I was like, "Yeah, it's a great movie." Um, yeah.
Yeah, I can't say enough about it.
G minus one was great for showing the reconciliation with the pitfalls of Bushido. Yes, that was good, and I thought that was great because that whole era of, I mean, I'm a bit of a history buff, and those eras interest me in that whole with the how the Japanese culture. I've always been interested in Japanese culture anyway, and how that worked with that was, I thought it was well done, very interesting. Yeah, so yeah, go see Godzilla minus one. That's a good one too, or Silence. Silence good too. Maybe not as good as Godzilla minus one. Still good though. All right. Okay, so we're trying to end the show. Cam, you have any last minute before we end the show?
I would just mention that our next movie night, I don't know if you have it scheduled yet, is going to be a review retrospective on Tron, the original Tron, 1982.
Have we decided?
Didn't we?
We decided Tron. Yes. Well, my suggestions were Tron or the Dark Crystal. And since there's a Tron movie coming up soon, I think we need to make it Tron. We can do the Dark Crystal some other time if we want to. Yeah. I don't think you like the Dark Crystal. But you made me watch that robot show. That was a bit Maximilian and yeah.
Talking about the black hole.
Yeah, that was a little. That's on the same level as the Dark Crystal, I think. But anyway, yeah. Yes. Death Angel Shadow wants us to mention the Babylon 5 retrospective on Wednesday. This Wednesday, we got our Babylon 5 show, which I'm really enjoying doing this show, of course, but that one's a good show too. I enjoy that one. And the next episode, I think, is Grail. Let me just check here. Yes, episode 15 from season 1 is Grail. So that is the name. We're getting near the end of the season here. We're over halfway done. Yeah, come and watch our show. We're talk about Babylon 5. We watched the episode, and then we discussed it with myself, Cam, Jason, and Death Angel Shadow. And one of you, loyal viewers, if you want to come on the show, just let us know. Put something in the comments of one of these shows saying, hey, I want to come on, and say which episode you want to talk about. You say, I want to talk about this episode, and we'll schedule you in. Yeah. So yeah, do that for sure. Weatherman says, give me a joke so I could go lay down. All right. So I'm supposed to pretend that we're going to end the show without doing a joke first, and then do the joke like I forgot about it. But I'll just skip that for today, and we'll just go straight to the joke. Now, Cam, some of these jokes, I don't know if I'm losing my mind or something. I think that maybe these are repeats, or I'm in an alternate universe, or I'm forgetting, or getting old, or whatever. But anyway, here we go. Yeah, it took me a long time to find these jokes, which, yeah, all right. I think I did this one before, but anyway, we'll do it again. How does the moon cut its hair, Cam?
I don't know. How does the moon cut its hair?
Eclipse it.
Good.
Eclipse, get it? Eclipse. He saying he clips it, but you just drop the H like you're from Britain or somewhere. Get that? Yeah. Okay. Good. Wait a second. We forgot the audience. Okay. One more. Well, maybe two. All right. Why did Darth Vader go to therapy?
I don't know. Why did Darth Vader go to therapy?
He needed help dealing with his dark side. Get it? Like dark side because he's like the Force and he's on the dark side of the Force because he's Darth Vader. Yeah. Okay. What's a last one? What's a robot's favorite kind of music? This should be pretty easy. Come on, you should get this one.
What's a robot's favorite kind of music?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Heavy metal, right? Because the robot's made of metal. Heavy metal is the music style.
This is some bullshit.
Okay. All right. That's it for the show, everyone. We hope you enjoyed those jokes. I know that's what everybody comes for, just for the jokes. They put up with an hour and 44 minutes of this so that they can listen to the jokes. Thank you again, everyone, for coming out. We appreciate you coming out to the show. We love, we like to talk about these things, but we also like the back and forth with you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for everybody coming and listening in. And remember, Wednesday and next Sunday, we'll carry on with part 2 of this topic because you requested it. Yeah. Techno. Yeah, that's good. Cam, you got anything to say before we head out?
Nope. But thanks for everyone coming. Certainly appreciate it.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. We are stuck at 520 and 66. We went up to 67, but then somebody unliked or unsubscribed. So if you can subscribe, we appreciate that. Trying to get the likes up and subscribe. We're trying to build to 1,000 viewers. And if we could do that, hey, we appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you next week or on Wednesday. Good night.
Good night.
Things that people say